What a night in Mexico City. After 40 years of waiting, heartbreak, and endless questions, Mexico have finally done it. The co-host nation has secured its first FIFA World Cup knockout stage victory since 1986, and suddenly, Javier Aguirre's dream of delivering the greatest World Cup campaign in Mexican history doesn't sound impossible anymore. 4 matches, 4 victories, 4 clean sheets. And now, Mexico stands just 1 win away from matching the furthest run they have ever achieved at a World Cup. Before this tournament began, head coach Javier Aguirre made a bold promise. He said that this Mexican team would attempt to produce the greatest World Cup performance the nation had ever seen. At the time, many viewed those comments as ambitious optimism. Today, they look more like prophecy. The challenge against Ecuador was always expected to be Mexico's toughest test of the tournament. Ecuador arrived carrying enormous momentum after eliminating Germany in one of the biggest shocks of the group stage. They possessed one of the strongest defensive records in the competition, and had already proven they could compete with football's elite. But on this night, inside a packed Estadio Banorte, Mexico produced their most complete performance of the tournament. And they did it quickly. As Thierry perfectly described after the match, the opening 30 minutes were simply wow. From the first whistle, Mexico played with an intensity and confidence that Ecuador simply couldn't match. Unlike previous matches in the tournament, where Mexico had often grown into games gradually, Javier Aguirre's side came out determined to dominate immediately. The breakthrough came through one of the stars of this World Cup, Julián Quiñones. The goal itself represented everything that has made this Mexican team so dangerous. Rather than resorting to long balls under pressure, Mexico trusted their technical ability. They strung together 14 consecutive passes, patiently moved Ecuador out of position, and created the perfect opening. Quiñones finished brilliantly. It was his 3rd goal of the tournament and further confirmation that he has become one of the breakout stars of the 2026 World Cup. Soon after, Raúl Jiménez doubled the advantage. The veteran striker, whose emotional goal on opening night helped ignite Mexico's tournament, once again delivered when his country needed him most. Suddenly, Mexico had complete control, and the atmosphere inside the stadium became absolutely electric. But perhaps the most impressive aspect of Mexico's performance wasn't their attacking quality. It was their maturity. Thierry highlighted the performance of 17-year-old midfielder Gilberto Mora, whose composure throughout the match was remarkable. Rather than forcing attacks or allowing emotions to dictate the tempo, the teenager demonstrated an understanding of the game far beyond his years. He slowed the game when necessary. He drew important fouls. He controlled possession. He helped Mexico maintain complete authority over the contest. And when Ecuador attempted to respond in the second half, Mexico simply refused to panic. As former players and analysts observed, protecting a 2-0 lead in a World Cup knockout match can often become dangerous. Teams retreat too deep. They invite pressure. They lose control. Mexico did none of that. Their defensive line remained organized and aggressive. They continued pressing intelligently. They controlled possession and prevented Ecuador from generating any sustained momentum. The back four were exceptional. The midfield remained disciplined. The game management was outstanding. This wasn't just a victory built on emotion and crowd support. This was a victory built on tactical intelligence and complete team performance. And then there was the crowd. More than 80,000 supporters transformed the stadium into one of the most intimidating environments in world football. As Thierry pointed out after the match, when the Mexican national team and the Mexican supporters become united, Mexico transforms into a genuine force. Anyone who faces them in Mexico City will have to deal with much more than just 11 players. They will have to face an entire nation. Now, the attention turns to the round of 16, where Mexico will face either England or DR Congo. And for the first time in decades, the conversation surrounding Mexico has changed. No longer are they simply a host nation enjoying a favorable tournament. No longer are they merely a team hoping to break a historical curse. They are now a team that the rest of the world must take seriously. 4 wins, 4 clean sheets, an entire country behind them, and perhaps most importantly of all, a team that finally believes its greatest World Cup story may still be ahead of them. Before Mexico's historic victory over Ecuador, There was one question dominating every conversation surrounding the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Could this Mexican team finally do what generations before them could not? The answer, at least on this unforgettable night in Mexico City, was a resounding yes. But what made Mexico's performance so impressive wasn't simply the result. It was the way they controlled every aspect of the match. Football analysts and former players were quick to highlight one particular area: Mexico's defensive organization. Throughout international football, teams protecting a lead often make the same mistake. They retreat deeper and deeper, invite pressure, and allow opponents to build momentum. Mexico did the exact opposite. Their back four produced one of the most disciplined defensive performances of the tournament. They dealt brilliantly with crosses, maintained their defensive shape, and, perhaps most importantly, consistently pushed their defensive line forward rather than dropping back. By squeezing the field and refusing to surrender territory, Mexico effectively removed all rhythm and energy from Ecuador's attack. The strategy was simple but incredibly effective. Mexico used their energy to dominate the first half and then used their intelligence to control the second. It was the performance of a mature team, one that understands how to win World Cup knockout matches. And that's exactly why football experts are beginning to take this Mexican team very seriously. Before the match, there were still questions surrounding Mexico's impressive group stage campaign. Critics argued that their opposition had not truly tested them. Ecuador, however, represented something entirely different. They had already eliminated Germany. They had one of the strongest defensive records in the tournament. And perhaps most importantly, they arrived in Mexico City completely unafraid. As Thierry Henry and Zlatan Ibrahimović discussed before kickoff, Ecuador were always going to present Mexico's biggest challenge yet. Unlike many international teams, Ecuador are accustomed to hostile environments and difficult playing conditions. During World Cup qualification, they routinely travel to Bolivia's altitude, face Argentina away from home, and compete in some of football's most demanding stadiums. The atmosphere inside Estadio Banorte wasn't going to intimidate them. But that didn't mean it wouldn't matter, because what happened in Mexico City felt different. This wasn't simply home field advantage. This was an entire country united behind one team. The scenes outside the stadium were extraordinary. Fan parks overflowed with supporters. Streets throughout Mexico City became celebrations of national pride. Inside the stadium, more than 80,000 fans created an atmosphere that transformed a football match into a national event. As Clarence Seedorf pointed out before kickoff, moments like these can affect visiting teams in one of two ways. They either break you, or they inspire you. For Ecuador, the challenge was enormous. For Mexico, the opportunity was historic. And when the game finally began after the weather delay, Mexico delivered the